I just ran my first full marathon. I can't believe it. This video is not to convince you to run a marathon. I mean, if that is your dream, then do it. So maybe this video is for you. But this video is for everyone who has had a dream for years and has never acted on that dream or has postponed it, procrastinated, not signed up, not done the thing. Or this is for the people who continue to keep convincing themselves that the dream is not for them. Through my story, I hope that you get any inspiration you need, whether this is to run the marathon, run the half, do the 5K, start the business, whatever your dream is, just to do it, to go past the fear and go past all of that noise telling you that you can't do it or that now is not the right time. Honey, there will never be a right time. This story is definitely an example of that. So first, let me give you a little background on my running history because I want you to know, yes, I ran the marathon, honey, okay? Put some respect on my name, but I am not a professional athlete. I started running in 2017, around then when I got started seriously in committing to a fitness journey. And I talk more about my running journey in depth in this YouTube video here. I was losing weight intentionally. I committed to a running plan. I started running 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, and half marathons were my sweet spot. Like, I love running half marathons. I think it's a good distance, but I had never run a full marathon, and that was always one of my dreams. Even before I started my fitness journey, I knew that marathons or just checking off that box at some point in my life was my dream. So from 2017 up until literally 2025, I had been signing up for marathons, not doing them, falling off my training plan, and I probably signed up for maybe 3 marathons, maybe two marathons that I ended up not doing just because I had convinced myself that now's not the right time, I couldn't train. And don't get me wrong, training for a marathon, yes, you do have to commit to a time to train. You have to commit to your personal life being kind of taken over by running and nutrition and just getting healthy. But that doesn't mean that you have to be a professional athlete to do a marathon. You have to have discipline, you have to be mentally there, and you have to be focused and you have to be committed to a plan to get you to not only to the start line, but past the finish line. And in my story, I signed up for a full marathon in April 2025. And one of my biggest dreams has been to run the Athens Authentic Marathon, which is not Athens, Georgia, honey. This is Athens, Greece. This is the original marathon because the marathon started when whoever that historical figure is, don't quote me, ran from Marathon, Greece to Athens, Greece to deliver a message. That course is historic, and I've been dreaming about running that course for years, ever since I realized that that's how the marathon started. So I signed up in April 2025. I got my 3 other friends involved, and we were training here and there, but they didn't necessarily have the dream that I had. So it kind of made more of a responsibility for me to not only train myself, but to train my 3 other friends who I brought along on the ride. Doing a marathon and training for this thing is really a personal journey. And the fact that I was doing it for the first time and also bringing other people along, it just became a little bit of a burden for me, which impacted my own training regimen. That's number 1. So the marathon was scheduled for November 2025. I actually was going through some things. I ended up quitting my job. My house flooded. It was just a mess and I just couldn't get to Greece at that time. I decided, okay, well, I'm just gonna forego this marathon. Greece will see me someday. I'll just sign up for the Atlanta Marathon on March 1st, 2026. So I signed up and I incrementally trained for the marathon. So I reintegrated running back into my plan, running 1 mile 1 week, then adding another mile here and there. I got up to, running my good distance, which is a half marathon. The most that I trained in my training was 16 miles. I feel bad about that because I meant to get to like a 20-mile long run on one weekend. I didn't get to it because I was I got sick. I just couldn't handle life for the last 3 weeks of my training, which led me to believe that I was not ready for the marathon. That all of my training beforehand, those 16-mile long runs, I now could not just push through and do the marathon. So leading up to marathon week, it was Tuesday when I talked to my running coach / friend. I basically told her, I was like, listen, I don't think I can do this. Like, I'm sick. I can't breathe. The longest that I've ran was 16 miles. Like, I don't think that this is a good idea. I don't want to get hurt. I just don't think that it's the right time. Maybe I can just do the half marathon. And, she said, listen, I think that you can do it. I will support any decision that you choose, and whether it's the half marathon, whether you choose not to do it, I'm leaving it open to you. So I was convinced, literally, I was convinced on Tuesday that I was not gonna run this thing. And the race was Sunday. On Tuesday, I said, okay, I'm not running the marathon on Sunday. I looked up if I could switch to the half marathon, but it said that you had to do it within a certain period of time, and I missed that period of time. I woke up on Wednesday and I said, you know what? I'm not even giving myself the opportunity to try. I'm just convincing myself that I can't do it. When did I ever become that person to convince myself that I cannot do something just because of 3 weeks out of maybe 6 months of training didn't go my way? That to me right there was the wake up call that I needed to tell myself. I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna try. I'm just gonna do this thing and we'll see what happens. But at least I tried. At least I gave myself the opportunity to succeed. It's no guarantee that I would finish that thing. I just needed to give myself an opportunity to be able to finish. I just said, okay, I'm just gonna try. And so from Wednesday up until Saturday, I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try. I can do this. I just ran 16 miles and 10 more miles is about an hour and a half, 2 hours more. I think I can push through. I think I can just push through, just one step at a time. So from Wednesday to Saturday, I was just training my brain, visualizing what it would be like to take a step after step after step, not even worry about the physical of it all, of running 26.2 miles, but just being present. And that's the number one thing that helped me get through this, is not thinking about the long distance. When you start thinking about it, it will make you go crazy. But just being present and thinking about, I take this next step, I take this next step. Okay, I just have to get to the next mile. I just have to get to the next one. Don't do any math. Don't count down. That's really what pushed me through the mental part of training beforehand, training my mind from Wednesday to Saturday, was just thinking about being present, being in the moment, taking step by step. So I get there Sunday. I'm nervous. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I was nervous, but I knew that this was the moment. This is, if all of these years I have dreamed about this and I made it to the start line, this is the moment where I just make it happen. I'm checking off the box today. It's going to be probably one of the most difficult days of my life, but I'm going to check off the box. I have mentally prepared for this over the past few days. I'm just going to stay present and I'm just going to do what I can and run my race. I'm not going to compare myself to anybody else. I'm going to go in with strategy. And so once I got to the start line, my strategy was to start, I was in the last wave. And when I tell you I'm not a pro, I'm slow. I'm a slow runner, okay? So I was in the last wave, but I made sure to stay at the front of the line. The front of the line was actually with the 5-hour, 30-minute pacers. So basically a pacing group is a group of basically registered runners who register with the race to help the other runners of the race at the pace that will allow them to finish in a certain time. This pace group was destined to finish within 5 hours and 30 minutes. So I was right next to them. I heard one of the pacers yell out, "Hey everybody, we are the pacing group for 5 hours and 30 minutes. We are going to be on a 2-1 schedule. We're going to run for 2 minutes and walk for 1 minute." And I was like, wait a minute. I didn't even realize that they were going to do that. Like, I thought that they were just going to run the whole time, but just run at a pace that allowed them to finish at 5 hours and 30 minutes. And I was like, okay, well, if they're running for 2 minutes and walking for 1, I can keep up with that. So the race started. By the way, I didn't even tell you what race I raced. This is the Atlanta Marathon. I will get into the details as I go on, but this is hills and it's Atlanta. We started the race listening to Waka Flocka, no hands. I literally went through the start line listening to Waka Flocka. So we started the race. The first section of the race was a big hill coming past Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but I made sure to keep up with the pacers as much as I could. For about maybe 3-4 miles I did that, and so I was making good time. With that strategy, I kind of kept that in the back of my mind, so even though they kind of raced faster than I did at one point, and they just kind of went off on their way, and I kind of fell back because I am a bit slower. I still kept that mentality, a 2-1 ratio, but just on my own time frame. I was good. We were running. I got up to 6 miles, 7 miles, and I remember thinking, this thing, I'm in flow. Like, I am running. I'm keeping up. I'm feeling good. I'm not feeling stressed about anything. My body feels really good. I remember saying that to myself, like, damn, if the rest of the race is like this, I can finish this thing. I went through the half marathon. Half marathon was fine. I was tired by the end of it, but I had to keep going. What sucks is that you pass by the finish line. So as all the half marathoners are finishing, you're passing by them as a full marathoner and continuing on with the race. So you're hearing everyone finish. You're hearing the crowd roaring as you're continuing on mile 14 to go do the same distance that they just finished. It's a mind trick. And that's what I'm saying. This whole thing, yes, it's physically exhausting, and I'll get to that in a second, but this was a mind game. Mile 14, mile 15, around this time, the hills were hilling. And the half marathon portion 1, it was intense. It was insane because Atlanta is hilly. The second half of this race, hill after hill, we went through the Atlanta University Center, which is most of the historically Black colleges in Atlanta are all gathered in one place. And it's on a hill. And if you remember that show on BET, College Hill, I was thinking the whole time, I was like, damn, this is why they call it College Hill. Because it is literally a hill. It is the most insane experience. And then once we got there, we ran in downtown Atlanta. And that part was horrible because you're running on basically bridges that cross over highways. So it feels very industrial. So when you're running through neighborhoods, you feel cozy, comfy, comforted because the people are coming out of their house cheering you on. When you are on a bridge with direct sun hitting you over top of highways, you are alone. And again, it's a mind game. Like, when no one is there to cheer for you, will you still continue? That is kind of what was going through my mind during that time of the race. Then mile 19 came, and people talk about mile 20, but for me, it was mile 19. I thought that glass went through my foot. I thought that I had to stop the race because my foot was punctured and blood started coming up, and it was like a sharp pain in my foot that I thought that I had gotten stabbed with some glass on the street. I checked my foot and there was no glass. I couldn't walk and I was hobbling. At the top of the hill, I took my shoe off. My whole top of my foot was blistered and bleeding. Both feet hurt. And I didn't realize how bad the blisters were on my left foot until I finished the race. But my right foot was so badly blistered that I couldn't walk. And so the EMS people, oh my God, it was horrible. The EMS people came over. They were like, do you need us to drive you back to the start line? And I'm already worried about time, that I'm not gonna finish this thing on time. So I was like, no, I'm just gonna try. Again, I am just going to try. I'm just going to figure it out. And so, you know who I thought of? David Goggins. I was like, listen, David Goggins has run marathons with his shins duct taped, bleeding from every which way. And I'm not saying if he can do it, I can do it, because I know David Goggins is on a whole nother level when it comes to mentality. And if you don't know David Goggins, you've got to read or listen to his book, Can't Hurt Me. This book will change your mindset and change your life. And thinking about this book as I was running from mile 19 to 26.2 miles, I just thought about David Goggins and how sometimes you have to do the hard things, and the hard things will make you bleed and you'll have blisters on your feet. What I did was I just stomped my foot down really hard to get used to the blisters, and I just started running again. And of course, this was not a fast run. This was a jog, walk. And then I got to about mile 23, and I literally walked from 23 to 26.2 miles. I walked 3 miles because I could not run anymore. My quads, my hamstrings cooked from just the running of the hills. And then on top of that, my feet were blistered. And I was so slow, by the way, that they started closing up the course. They told me to go on the sidewalk. They closed up the water stations. So I didn't have water for the last 5 miles. I got to like the last stretch and I saw Mercedes-Benz right in front of me. And I was like, all right, I made it this far. I have to get to the finish line. I don't know. I just walked. I just kept walking. Something kicks in you where you just keep going because you've made it so far. And if I had already made it to the finish line, had already run 19 miles and then realized I had blisters on my feet, I'm not quitting now. If I had already run 25 miles, I can't quit. I just have to finish that last mile so that I can cross this finish line and finally let this thing get this off of me. This marathon, this dream. I just want it checked off at this point. I crossed the finish line. I was wobbling, I was limping down the finish line. I could not wait for that thing to be over. Nobody was there because everybody had crossed earlier in the day. I was just that slow. I got a medal. I was just so glad that it was over. But more than being glad that it was over, I'm glad that I chose to do it, because right when I finished, I was like, thank God it's over. But wow, I just finished it, and I thought that I couldn't do it. Just last week, I was determined. I was dedicated to not doing this thing, but I realized that I could do it. I just was convincing myself that I couldn't, and I was convincing myself that I didn't want to. This whole race was a transformative moment, but just crossing that finish line was transformational for me because it was just a reminder. It wasn't even about the medal. It wasn't even about the tangible. It was about the intangible. It was about a belief, a reinforcement of a belief I had about myself. At some point in life, I had this belief that I could do this thing. At some point in life, I lost that belief. At that moment in time when I crossed the finish line, I got that belief back for me. And now you can't tell me anything. Like I ran a marathon, and also I can do other hard things. And I'm just so glad that I chose myself, and I'm glad that I chose my higher purpose, and I'm glad that I didn't choose time. I didn't choose my mood. I didn't choose, something temporary. I chose a belief in myself that was permanent enough to allow me to do something that I've always wanted to do. So again, this video is not about the marathon. It is about the trials and tribulations that I faced by doing it, but mostly it is about the intangible, which is the belief in myself that I had to continue doing something that I thought that I couldn't. And so if you take anything from this video, I hope that you run a marathon if you want to, honey. Go sign up right now. Now is the time, and make sure that you have the time to train, because the whole time you'll be regretting any training that you didn't do. Just go after what you want in life. And even if you think that you can't do it, but mostly if you think it's going to be a hard journey, it is. That's why only 1% of the population has completed a marathon, because it is hard. But that's what distinguishes you from one of the elite people who do things and actualize their potential, and the rest of the world who continues to hope and wish and pray? Would you rather hope, wish, and pray, or believe and achieve? There's a whole difference there, and it's a whole mindset. It's a whole different way of living that you do once you believe and you achieve. And so I just hope that, you know, anything that you want to do, you figure out a way to do it. Just figure it out. Even if you're in the moment of doing the thing and you have no clue how you're going to make it to mile 20 after you discovered that you have blisters all over your feet and you're bleeding through your shoes, figure out how you are going to get up and get to your finish line. I could have taken the EMS to get to the finish line, but I didn't. I figured out a way to continue on and move through my life. Nobody's ever died from blisters, and I knew that, and I knew I wasn't gonna die. I just knew it was gonna hurt. Does anybody want to be in pain? No. But I achieved a goal that I wanted to achieve. Next time, I'm going to have more awareness and knowledge to make it less painful. So now I'm more informed. Now I'm more transformed because I have a better, bigger belief in myself to do the hard things. Do the hard things, and let me know in the comments what you have always dreamed of achieving and what you're going to do in 2026. I'm Morgan. Thanks so much for watching my channel, Actualized AF, where we talk strategies, tips, and inspiration to actualize the life you've always dreamed of. Stay actualized.
So presently I'm standing here right now, you're so demanding. Tell me what you want.